Hi, good evening, everyone. How are you? You doing well? Good. I'm Taylor Hickey. Welcome to Tech Fashion Week 2016's Virtual Reality and Augmented Realities Forum. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me. We have some fabulous panelists. You're already well acquainted with Alex and Cece. We have two other fabulous people that I'd love to have start off by just telling a bit about themselves. You can come over here and sit down, please. Welcome. And so if you just introduce yourself and tell me a bit about you, and then we'll delve a little bit deeper into some more questions regarding VR and AR.
Hi everybody, my name is Jimmy Gilberti. I'm from WorldViz. It's based in Santa Barbara. I live up here in San Francisco. I'm their sales and biz dev director. And we've been doing VR for over 10 years. And so one of the things that you'll hear tonight as we talk about whether it's gaming or health or education, we've been at the top end of that pyramid of dollars and number of people. Games being at the bottom, lots of people, and not as much dollars. We've been at the enterprise level. And I'll talk about that a little bit.
Thank you. My name is Greg Gottman. I run business development for Upload VR, which is kind of a destination website in the virtual reality space, kind of like TechCrunch for VR. We started out very similar to this event. We were a meetup group that focused in the virtual reality industry about 2 years ago. And over time, we just kind of cultivated a lot of the people in the industry and bridged a lot of connections to the point where now we can work on building some things out to nurture the VR industry and the AR industry. So I focus right now on the co-work space that we're opening up right here in Soma, as well as some education for virtual reality and augmented reality events that we'll be putting together, and some recruitment events and a $170 million capital network that our investors have put together to invest in VR funds that we kind of scout and resource for. So combination of a bunch of different stuff in the VR space as it grows to help interested entrepreneurs that want to build into the space.
Do you need me to intro myself again?
Well, you already did that. If you'd like to say something fun about yourself that we don't already know.
This is being recorded, so they don't know you out there.
Okay.
Oh.
So my name is Alexander Hawk. I'm from RetNat VR, and we do analytics for virtual reality. So our two first products are a heat map that allows us to track where users are looking within a virtual reality experience, and emotional tracking, so to understand how people are emoting within a virtual reality experience. We're proud founders from Montreal and based here in San Francisco as well, housed out of Rothenberg Ventures.
Hi, I'm Cece. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Meta VR, the user-generated VR and 360 video platform. Funny thing about Meta, all three co-founders are European, but two of us are pretend Europeans. I actually have an American passport, so I'm a fraud. Yeah, there we go.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Okay, so we can just jump right into the questions, if you guys are all comfortable with that. So, my first question for you is this. How does virtual reality affect the way we live?
Right. Well, one thing that I'm really excited by and interested in is how it will change the way we view other people. So, you know, you could joke and say that the last few years have very much been the age of the selfie. You know, the big social networks are all about, you know, the self, the individual personalities. And what I'm really hoping for with VR video is that it will put people into context and put stories into context. So rather than the selfie, it might be the tricksty or something else, but it'll be all about creating empathy for someone's situation rather than just seeing them with a great filter. So, yeah.
I think VR is going to be fascinating how it changes all the experiences around us and events. So I'm a big events person, and pretty much every event that you go to now can change through VR, which is awesome. But also with the millennial generation and how we spend our money is basically, you know, we spend a lot more on experiences and events than anything else right now. Whereas previous generations were about material things, and I think VR really cultivates that space really well. So.
Yeah, I kind of I agree with CC here. I think it's an incredible empathy machine. So Chris Milk has this fantastic talk Chris Nutt's an amazing director. We're 360 content, and probably we're going to show some of it tonight as well. Stepping into somebody else's shoes, as we saw before, is really just an incredible experience that we've never been able to have before, I don't think, or at least to that level of immersion. So to be able to look through somebody else's eyes and really jump into a slum or jump into a third world country or anybody's perspective is really an incredible empathetic machine. So I'm really excited for that, how that's going to actually, I think that's going to change our species, because we'll be able to understand how people are feeling and then, empathize with them.
So one of the things that's interesting for me is visualization. So as much as the people being able to interact with people right now, when you put that headset on, you're right now kind of the person in there. And we're making some changes right now. One of the things that my company's doing is making it so that not only can I be in that space and look around and see it and say, wow, this is great, but someone else can join me in that same space, and another person can join. And so what gets interesting on this one is training. Someone who's the master, someone who's the apprentice, and I can sit there with my HMD on. I could be looking at a rotor for a helicopter as an example, and I'm training this new person on how to go and take these bolts off before I get to the plate, before I get to the innards. And they're looking at it, going back and forth, and they can say, okay, let me try. And the amount of training involved is not just conceptually am I getting how to do things, I'm learning it. It's muscle memory. And that's an amazing thing. And so that bonding that happens inside the space, because now you're the only two people in that world. So that connection you make with the person is really kind of tight.
Thank you. I love all of your answers. Now, I have a question that's coming off of that, and it's, do you find that VR will be harmful in any way?
So we came out of the neuroscience group. As an example, one of the things you'd see, and what we bring to shows a lot, is something called walk the plank. And this is something where if you think of Half-Life or something along those lines, big open space and there's a platform, what we do is we put the person in there and we raise the platform way up, like 50 feet. And so you've got this thing on, you look down, and if you're scared of heights, that's big. That's a big change. And some people will, we ask them, so why don't you walk this plank that goes between this platform and that platform? 50% of the time, they say, well, that's okay, cool.
Myself, I've had that experience actually. It was phenomenal when I first tried the latest Oculus, and I was absolutely terrified. But I think it's phenomenal for anxiety therapy and things of that nature, so I'm super pro the quote-unquote harmful effects.
So can it be harmful? It can if you do it wrong. If somebody's in that, they don't want to do it, and you're in the real world, and you say, no, really, that can be really scary, and drop them off. So, but it is used, PTSD, to be able to train people to desensitize them from a very scary event that they had. You put them back in and say, no, it's okay. Or if it's height, you bring them up slow. And it's healthy.
So there's actually this philosophy that thinks that VR is going to be the end of our species. So I know I just argued that empathy is going to save our species, but there's an interesting a school of thought that thinks that because we're able to, say, go to the moon or have scientific discoveries within VR, experience things that we would never be able to experience otherwise, that as soon as we take it off, it's kind of like cerebral masturbation, where we're not going to want to do any of those things. So we'll say, well, I've already been to the moon, so no need to innovate. And we're going to end up killing all our future scientists, so all the 10-year-olds that are going to the moon are no longer going to have that desire. So if you agree, if you see that line of reasoning, or you see the red flag that's been put up, then yeah, absolutely it could be dangerous or evil.
Yeah. Going on that, I think, like with most most tech, 90% of people are consumers and 10% are content creators. So 90% will enjoy being on the moon and not want to build more, and 10% will be like, we need to go farther, which will be awesome. But I think there, there's all these positive aspects of VR. There will be a couple negative aspects, just like with gaming, how some people get really addicted to games and just play games all day and don't work. With VR, you will see some people get really tuned into the VR and not do some things they would normally do in the human world, but by and large, I think it's going to be a very big net positive.
Excellent. Great. All right, well, my second question for you guys is, can our bodies and minds really cope with VR? Can they really?
Okay, well, firstly, nausea is still a thing. It hasn't been totally eradicated despite amazing technological advances over the last year. And in order to kind of combat nausea in headsets, it's all about creating content that's comfortable. So I think this is kind of answering the question. One innovation that will happen over the next year is that we're going to see better ways of flagging and marking which content is comfort plus, and which might cause people with predisposed to nausea in headsets to get a little bit sick. And I've seen some really great games which have been designed specifically to be comfortable and soothing and relaxing. Like, have you guys played Land's End? It's one of my favorite VR games. It's made by the people who created Monument Valley. If anyone's played that on their phones, yeah, okay, more of a response there. And it's basically designed to be this VR experience that is like super comfortable, soothing. It's all about brain training really, rather than about throwing you off a roller coaster or big heights. And for me, that's the kind of content that I prefer anyway. So there's a big joke. The first VR headset I tried on, I think it might have been like the loading page at Rothenburg or on the Samsung, and it just stars all around you. It's a loading page, so I thought it was the experience. And it just goes to show that, particularly with VR, it's all about creating atmospheres rather than necessarily action happening. So I basically think that we're going to have better moderation, better curation of content designed to lessen the effect of nausea. Yeah.
I think we're all good for that question.
Okay, so other than gaming, are there any other relevant fields that VR is being leveraged in its usage?
So one of the things that we use a lot, and I think that you'll find gaming, there's a lot of folks that are out there creating content. It's fun, it's great, it's easy in some ways, depending on the tools, but there's a whole market that already has their assets in computer graphics, and it's something that's ready for virtual reality, and that's architecture. So what will happen is we will take somebody who's basically already created the space, they'll export it into our tool, and now their clients will be able to go and look at that space before anything's ever built. And so that is a great way to go and get final approval for space, especially if it's really something that's precise, needs to be precise. Think about a hospital room, where a doctor has to be able to know that when they're looking over an operating table, that when they look down and then they look up, that monitor they need to see needs to be in exactly that right place. Now, if that was designed and it was on paper, or if it was even mocked up in a little paper thing that they might do to mock up what the room is like, he won't or she won't have that ability to see it like they do with virtual reality. Or do the analysis studies where it's now I have the room, what happens when I have 3 or 4 people interacting in that room at the same time? Can I get around that particular practitioner that's right there? Can I get to everything I need? So that practical use of the space has been a big help for us.
I think the easiest way to think of VR is similar to how mobile phones were, maybe in like early 2000s, where it just seemed like there were a couple experiences, or when smartphones first came out, there were a couple things that you could do with it, and then now we see what smartphones can do, and every industry is affected. And it won't be as ubiquitous as that in the beginning for the first couple of years right now as we're going through consumerization and the gestation phase, which is like really hot right now, that word. If you've read that post. But so many industries and things we do right now will be affected from it, especially anything in entertainment, movies, gaming, live events. You work in education mostly, where like education is just going to be like off the charts different.
So I think, yeah, education is probably, I would agree, is probably one of the biggest one that's going to be disrupted. If I'll use that word, the hot word of this decade. So there's actually an incredible study that was done actually out of Stanford University, out of their virtual reality lab. And what they did is they had a bunch of students position themselves in a virtual world and sit in the front of the classroom. And then they wanted to test for whether those who sat at the front actually performed better. They wanted to see if that theory, like the kid at the back, that actually performs worse. And they found that, yeah, actually, not that they performed worse, it's just the ones that performed way better in the front. It's because teachers are able to engage with students on like just like a facial level, like a head movement level. And that kind of engagement that you get just by being up front, so you guys, means you're probably getting the best experience in the house. And that goes back to your question about, are we connected to VR, like physiologically, psychologically? And yeah, the answer is a resounding yes. So that's incredible. And just some really quick note about this study that was really cool as well. So what they did is they also had students that were in the back, they would fade. So from the teacher's perspective, they would start fading. And that was a timer that would show how much time a teacher was disengaging. And as soon as that acted as a trigger, you could look at that student, and a teacher also was perceived as being a better teacher because the teacher could understand how much they themselves were disengaging with students. So I think education, that's an incredible industry that's going to be changed.
Okay, I won't talk about video and film again, we had enough of that, but just to the point that there's going to be plenty of unexpected use cases coming out of this technology. I was browsing the Oculus store the other day, and I found this public speaking app. Has anyone tried this? So you click it, and it's a free app, and suddenly you're in front of a crowd of thousands of people, and you have a podium and an empty piece of paper in front of you, and you're in a headset. And I wasn't actually looking for that app. I was looking for something else. And I was like, oh hey, didn't realize that this was even a thing I needed or wanted, but yeah, I could use this. And I kind of sat there in the office on my own, orating, and everyone's like, what the hell are you doing? Anyway. So yeah, plenty of interesting use cases. I think one that I'm really excited about is enterprise, workplace, work environment VR. So I think it's a startup, it's called Envelope VR, that's raised quite a substantial round to create workspaces, virtual monitors in VR. Anyone here is a coder, used to being surrounded by huge screens. You can imagine how much better the experience would be in VR when you have an infinite amount of space to use to visualize what we're working on, and designers as well. So I'm really excited about VR working environments. If you're ever at the office and you're distracted by everyone around you, you just want to go to a place to kind of find zen, it's not too far away. And another kind of quirky use case, I think, will be meditation, kind of like brain training activities. Kind of back to this point that I think that VR can be at its best when it's very, calming and serene. I've tried a couple of brain training apps. So one thing that's cool because of the gyroscope inside the headset is that you can move things with your mind in VR. Or at least it feels like you can. You can move things with your gaze. I found to be very soothing. One of the best demos I did is if you played the game Esper. It's called Esper. That's called. Anyway, it's awesome. So I think that some of those kind of high-level training apps will really take off. Yeah.
I agree. I absolutely love the meditation apps. Real estate is going to be heavily affected, which I love, because you can, look at what you want to buy, obviously. So, next question. How does virtual reality impact the gaming industry? We're kind of taking a step back. I asked what else is going to be beyond gaming, but how is it going to affect gaming?
It's actually, I'm going to turn it at the same time. How does gaming impact VR? Price. The Oculus coming down to $99. The HTC just now coming out. That's because of the sheer number of people who are involved. It makes it so that hardware that used to be $20,000 for a headset is now $99, right? So it's driving the price way down. Same with the tools to be able to go and create the content. So games has that impact on VR. How does VR impact gaming? I think it goes back to what I think you were saying when it comes to where you look in a game. It's the game dynamics. Is it always in front of you? Is it a cutscene where you go boom, boom, boom? Not anymore. It's how do you create a game where action's happening here, action's happening here. How do you drive the person through the game now when everything's available? The same is true with movie making too, but especially gaming too.
In short, it's gonna make gaming a lot more emotional and a lot more intense because everything comes from this first-person point of view in VR, and things that might not seem that scary in a normal game right now because you're not that present in it. In VR, you really get scared like properly scared. And I'm hoping you get as excited as you do scared, because I've been so scared in some of these games.
The same thing has happened to me. I've been terrified, just standing in the Matrix-esque white room looking around.
You can like hear something breathing behind you, you start
on?
turning your head, you're like, where the
Yeah.
fuck?
No, it's terrible. It's terrible, it's terrifying. I agree.
Yeah. So your emotions are all heightened. That's why they call it the empathy machine.
Maybe on the note of how will gaming affect VR, I think one of the awesome things about gaming is that people still pay for great productions. You know, there are still games that, you know, sell for a sizable amount of money, which means it's possible to have the higher end Oculus and Vive because enough good high quality content is going to be sold on them to make them viable products. The same can't be said, unfortunately, for the kind of video space. There will be high end kind of blockbuster hits, but by and large, I think the most important kind of union of VR and gaming is that will allow it to be a kind of sustainable business model. A lot of other industries are going to live off the fact that gaming, people will still pay for very highly produced games. I do hope they continue to do in the future because, you know, a highly produced VR game is going to be something that requires, you know, teams of 20 minimum, highly trained artists, and yeah, I hope that that will have a positive effect on you on it.
Absolutely, I agree. So we touched on this briefly, but I wanted to get back into it. Is there a future for virtual reality in education? And if so, what is it? And I know that you guys just spoke about that, but I mean, can you give me a little bit more in regard to education, even for adults, not just necessarily in the classroom?
Education, again, being that I think being engaged with the teacher, the emotional side of it. Again, I talk about the muscle memory of learning physical things. It'll be interesting to see what happens with conceptual things and what VR does to that. So if I can conceptually say, here's what a cube looks like, et cetera, and now I can drop a cube in that I can walk around and say, oh, okay, and this is what a dodecahedron looks like when I walk around. Being in the same space with other people, exploring things, could be interesting as well. The challenge is also going to be getting that many headsets to that many people and putting the programs together. That's the big challenge for the education industry right now, is the cost of these is still for high-end gamers. I think the next wave, I think, is where education is really going to kick in.
So just following up on that, I think it actually becomes a little bit more ubiquitous in the next year or two. If any of the rumors of Google and Apple both producing some platforms for their phones to go into to make it a much better VR experience, even the Gear VR, then that opens up the pathways for, you know, some schools, especially in San Francisco, having VR headsets for all their students, and like some new schools like Alt School just like blowing our minds on some shit they make. And overall, the education experience is just more entertaining in VR, but you just have to make some of these experiences for it. But similar to what we said, like being able to be inside a cell and learn about mitochondria from like the inside out makes that a much more enjoyable, memorable experience for a student as opposed to just looking at a textbook. It's like that Magic School Bus thing. If anyone watched Magic School Bus, right, when you're doing the bloodstream?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just one exciting initiative, Google has launched something, I think it's called the Explore Project, and they've distributed about 500,000 Google Cardboards to schools across the country, not mainly schools in San Francisco, but schools, you know, without the resources to, you know, provide kids with, you know, field days and, you know, endless trips to incredible museums. And they've seen incredible results. I think, in fact, it's been so popular amongst the school children that the Google Play results they showed at the top downloaded apps have been like heavily skewed by the kind of, you know, student consumers. And the main thing that Explore is doing is giving people the opportunity to, you know, see Machu Picchu, see, you know, events of great historical significance, and kids really, really like it. And I think what someone said earlier is that the difference between like remembering learning about something and remembering being there are very, very different. I actually got an email the other day from someone who, so our interface, as you saw, is this world map. I got an email from someone who had made something quite similar, kind of lo-fi version, just tagging on videos and taking it to a school for children with disabilities, and had the kids' minds totally blown. Really, really loved it. Had always wanted to go to certain places. I think that really experiential element of education, something I hope to see soon, is using VR to help visualization in mathematics, economics, and physics. There's a few experiments I've seen that look really awesome. I was never able to kind of get my head around data in a way that I would have wanted to, and I think that will be something really exciting in the years to come. To be able to kind of intuitively understand, big data rather than, have to parse it. I think that'll be something really cool that happens.
My next question is this: which VR or AR companies are making a difference? I mean, obviously Oculus and Samsung, but any VR startups that are standouts in the field, in your opinions?
Well, we think that everyone's contributing in their own way. I mean, we're contributing by nurturing the industry, as is most of the VCs that are getting in the game right now, and some nice little shops like Rothenberg and River, who invest in you guys who did it early. But there's so many different fields to be disrupted here. Buzzword. So it's I don't know if there's just any one company. I mean, of course, you have the big ones that are creating the HMDs and the platforms that people will tune into, but everyone's going to add value in their own way.
As a filmmaker, I'm really interested in where the 360 video is going. I mean, I carry my Recode data in my pocket as well. I love it, and I took a couple of shots, and in fact, we're all up on a URL right now. If I had the URL, I could have everybody go through with your iPhone and go through it. But there are ones out there now, whether it's Nokia with the Ozo, $60,000 cameras right now with 15 different lenses going in all directions with beautiful resolution that you'd never buy, but you would rent. But someday that's coming down. And the Recodes are a good example of that, the new LG and the Samsung. So those are things for me I'm looking at. The interesting thing on that, though, is it's still static. In other words, the camera is your head position, which means it takes the picture, and if it moves, you move with it. And I'm still looking forward to those applications, and we do this, that you basically have walking VR, where you're in a space, and it isn't just when your head is moving, when you are moving. So when you walk through the space, you're walking through the space. And that's something that's here, but it's not prevalent yet.
Oh man, yeah, there's so many cool VR companies. I mean, it's just getting started. And the stuff that I've seen coming out of the gate is really gonna blow your guys' minds. It's incredible. So there's one company, actually out of Rothenberg, it's not a plug, artificial intelligence company. So what I showed you before coming out of Baobab Studios, which is another VR animation studio, with that little rabbit looking around at you, that thing doesn't have any sort of intelligence, it's just animate, which is really cool. But there's a company that's actually creating AI for those types of interactions. So every time you put on the headset, it's going to learn about you and start interacting with you as if you were a human being, start learning about your habits and start interacting with you really on a deep personal and emotional level. And that's incredible to me. Second one I'd have to think of is Fove. So they're actually doing eye tracking within VR. And again, for a company like ourselves, it's really interesting to see exactly what people are looking at. That's phenomenal. The implications of that, again, within education or healthcare, the ramifications are huge of being able to precisely see what people are specifically focusing on. Yeah, just some really incredible VR companies starting up.
I think I have a lot of admiration for the organizations like Upload and some of the large meetup groups like SVVR and SFVR, Silicon Valley VR meetup, and San Francisco Virtual Reality meetup, because they are creating the community, and Upload is creating the community. And that's something I think that I personally feel very privileged to be in this industry at a time when everyone is so willing to help each other, and it's due in no small part to the fact that a lot of these meetups have created this incredibly giving, welcoming atmosphere. So a lot of admiration for them, and a huge amount of admiration for people who are working on products they know will probably be redundant soon, for the sake of pushing it forward. So, for instance, everyone knows that the big camera companies like LG and Samsung were going to put out 360 cameras at some point, and nonetheless, you saw a million Kickstarters by passionate people hacking together their own cameras. Knowing the corporate bigwigs were going to blow them away at some point, but nonetheless wanted to provide cameras to people who wanted them. And I think that's very admirable. And on that side, every day get emails from people creating their own rigs for the Ricoh Theta, their own holders, their own different color cases, and the kind of cottage industries that develop around these new products are really exciting. We've all seen so many different Kickstarters for different hand motion sensors for the Oculus, knowing that Facebook's going to kind of release its own. But I think it's that spirit of innovation, despite the fact that a lot of these things are going to become redundant, that I really admire and like to hear from. Another one on one side I'm very interested in though is Vicarious. Have you guys seen a demo? Which is so exciting. So it's kind of like Photoshop in 360 in VR. So actually, whilst in the headset, you're able to move around different elements using both 360 photos and videos, as well as two-dimensional objects that you can then place at distance. I think it's tools like Vicarious, which create an easy way for anyone with no technical background to create really beautiful, thoughtful pieces that aren't necessarily the most technologically sophisticated, but really make use of VR that I think are really admirable because, again, they're doing the hard work of making it easy for everyone else. So anyone who's kind of doing the hard work so it's easy for everyone, I think deserves to be recognised for that, yeah.
Thank you. And so my final question for the evening is, where is virtual reality today, which you've all pretty much answered in some form, but where is it today and where do you see it in 10 years?
Could I oblige myself to let you answer since you've been in the field for the first 10 years?
Good point. A lot of the last 10 years has been waiting for the hardware to catch up. I was on the original 3D Studio Max team at Autodesk when VARForum was first coming out. Brian Blau from Gartner, he was on my team at the time. Everybody had these huge hopes for what VR was going to do, but it wasn't ready yet. So now it is. It's ready. The hardware's here. I mean, I love it. I've got, in my bag, I've got my cardboard, I've got my Gear VR, HTC's coming. And it's going to be nothing compared to what we're going to have. I mean, you think about it this way, we will wear these, and you saw the picture that you had put up with over at the Samsung event, with everybody with the big headsets on. So they're still too big. They're still way too big. And so in 10 years, it's either going to be, I think even in 5 years, it's like Geordie. So it'll be like really, Star Trek-like, and then maybe after that, contacts, right? It's in there, you pop them in, and it's VR and AR together, and you're either in it or you're in between. And I think the hardware is going to be just so fast. From the software side, again, it's going to be industries that already have content. I think the gaming is going to the masses, the people who have access to create content continues to get more. My concern over the next year, 2 years, even before we get to 10, is the quality of the content that we'll see. Where hardware was the issue before with getting VR and up off the ground, it's going to be the content, whether it's compelling enough for everyone to say, yes, this is it, or oof, this is, whatever. But that's a concern, right? The next year or two is going to say whether people are going to hang on and wait for it.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. And I think the next year moves a lot faster than people think, with I think something like 6 platforms coming out with HMD devices, or this year, if Apple and Google get in the next 2. And then by next year, I think we hit cell phone consumerization, where everyone's wanting to play a VR headset, or they see all their friends on it, they want to get one too. There's some kind of cheap version of cardboard that's a little bit better than cardboard. And there's so much money going into this space right now, just lining up. Like, I know so many, where there was no investors a year ago, there's so much money now getting lined up to invest in AR and VR. And you see some investments like in Magic Leap, where it's like $1 billion pre-product. That just doesn't make any sense. Like, to look at that compared to other investments, like, just doesn't make any sense. So everything's like lining up almost like a slingshot, ready to go for this industry. And it's so weird because it's so nascent right now, and it's going to happen so fast, I believe. So 10 years from now, I think AR definitely takes over the VR, because AR is a lot more interesting and has a lot more things that can get involved in. So probably AR hits where VR is in 2 years, AR is in maybe like 5 years. And then, by 10 years, who knows what kind of technology we have in 10 years at this point. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the image of the contact lenses is very Minority Report-esque. Anybody remembers that movie from 2001 with Tom Cruise? Yeah, I mean, I think I see it going the exact same way. And as you said, we're at a fashion tech event, and these are probably the least sexy things you can smush up against your face. I mean, a phone 3 inches from your face is pretty much as geeky as it gets. So that definitely, like you said, aesthetically, it's going to change. We're going to get to the majority. It's going to be amazing what we're going to be able to do. And just the content itself, as you said, once that gets going, it gets incredible, and we have more people stepping up. Like you said, for hardware, I'm really excited to see everybody that's going to step onto your platform and deliver, compelling stories either from the fridge or something, even more compelling, and something that keeps us in there for hours on end. And that's really where I see the intersection of again, getting back to your questions from before, of where psychology and physiology meet, because we're just going to not really be able to make the distinction anymore. It's already a tough time. We've already talked about our own personal experiences of having a very personal, instinctual kind of reaction to different VR experiences. So I can only imagine what that's going to feel like in 10 years. I don't know if it's good or bad, and so that remains to be seen.
Well, I think we're at a point where the hardware has got so good, and I think so much better than people a few years ago would have thought, that now I think we're waiting for the storytellers. We're waiting for people to come up with new and exciting ways of entertaining people in this format, and we haven't got there yet. I think our hypothesis at Meta is that it will come from a lot of people getting cameras, a lot of terrible, terrible videos, and a few stars emerging. I think there are some people who have really good reason to think that it will happen from the top down. So from big studios really investing a lot of time in research and trying to figure out what works. But that the next, maybe not the next 10 years, maybe the next 10 days, we're going to see a lot more innovations in storytelling. We haven't yet seen 360 VR videos that make people laugh. We haven't seen the Vine equivalent on 360. I do begin to see some that make people cry. Because VR is so incredible empathy. But I think what I'm excited about is seeing the new emotional registers that this technology will afford us, and contact, of course. The contact lenses scare me. And yeah, so I also want to double down. I think that AR, so augmented reality, is going to be a really exciting space. Who knows what Magic Leap is doing, but they're good at making demo videos. So you might be able to hold that little elephant in your hand or whatever they have in their video sooner than you think. I would quite like a dog, so if they can get me a augmented reality dog that can stay in my apartment, I'll be happy.
Well, thank you for so much. Can I get a round of applause, please? How fabulous are you? Thank you so much for being here and speaking with us. Thank you.
Okay, questions?
Yeah, hi, I'm interested in one of the most fun things I think, shopping. Is anyone aware of who's doing what? Who do you think will be first with shopping? Because that's certainly entertainment people.
I think this is going to immediately be a plug for R&D. But as soon as you start getting into looking at what people are looking at, all of a sudden, fashion, things along those lines, you can go and do a study that basically says, I put these things up here, and you ask them later, which one did you really like? They say, well, I like this one. I don't know what the correlation to what they were really looking at compared to what they said they were looking at. And I think that's going to affect what gets put on end caps. I think it's going to affect all kinds of things from a fashion point of view once you have a better understanding of when you get into the data of what's inside the HMD.
I'll just add to that really, really quickly. So I think there was somebody actually I was talking to before this event, perhaps Adam, sorry for forgetting your name. Yeah, he literally came up with the coolest idea that I'm stealing. So put up your hand. Yeah, so he said, I can't wait till eBay becomes like a virtual world where you literally see like all the shoes lined up and you can go in and pick what you want out instead of just scrolling down like endless pages of like really disgusting UI and UX. So I thought that was a cool idea for shopping, like being in a closet and just like grabbing what you want. So that's cool.
Think of every big fashion brand having their main store just be in VR and building out this massive virtual like 5-story space that's gorgeous, and being able to go in there every day and see whatever new items, like whatever your favorite brand is creating, and then if you want it, they can just ship it to you for X amount of price. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities.
Rebecca Menkoff and Dior actually has some process of doing that. And Jason Wu just did his runway show at Fashion Week, New York Fashion Week last week through VR. Okay, next question.
Hi, so I'm actually a hybrid like artist and developer, and I'm really interested in like what kind of tools you could use to actually make this 3D environment. So I don't know too much about it, but I would love to know about companies you know that are making these amazing environments. Like, I think I did maybe several months ago, Cardboard had this app where it was a very flat, like geometrical environment, and there was like a box and like a snowman, and it was like really beautiful. And I realized I don't like flat environments. But so, do you guys know of any tools or have advice for artists who would like to create those environments, or know of any companies that are kind of heading those up at the time?
Can you repeat the question for the audience in the back, please?
So you were saying you were a designer and developer, and you wanted tips on which tools to get started with. And I got there were companies who were providing those tools. The two most common devices, platforms to use are actually game engines. So Unity and Unreal Engine are what are currently being used to make a lot of these games and experience more generally. So they're both optimized for developing games, but we built our first iteration of Meta on Unity. And the great thing about Unity from people with design background is that a lot of it is very front end. There's actually a lot of it is more similar to Photoshop than it is to coding. So if you're good visually, you'll probably find it a lot easier than learning a totally new language. So really recommend Unity, but Unreal Engine is pretty awesome, but will take longer to get to grips with. As I said, Vicarious, so I should say I know them, so I'm plugging them a little bit, but they're great. I think it's going to be a really awesome tool for prototyping. So again, as I said, you kind of place 360 environments and flat images at different depths, and you can learn how to use it in about 2 minutes. I think they're still in alpha, but they're ones to watch out for. And then a random tip that I was told and now use is, does anyone know it's kind of like a kid's, teenage game building platform called Roblox, so kids go on and they make all these crazy games in 1 second. It's like drag and drops, it's like The Sims, but you're building your own games. And they're experimenting with VR a little bit, but it's actually awesome for prototyping 360 environments because you can just drag and drop elements, look through a huge asset store, see how things look, walk around it, and then be on with your way. So if you want to have some quick and dirty prototyping, Roblox could be a good solution.
Yeah, I'd say Unity is definitely where you want to go. 90% of people, from what I can tell, start with Unity because Unreal's a little heavier. It's really focused for big gamers or building a big game. And Upload is trying to work with Unity right now to do some stuff for the community. So if you want to learn how to do Unity, we might have some awesome opportunities for you. I'll make a list afterwards if you want to come up and put your email down. If anyone's interested in learning about Unity.
Okay, next question. John.
You have a DNA partner for a seed investment firm.
No.
And, okay.
John, we had our hackathon finals yesterday, so he's one of our judges, and then you can tell about yourself.
Sure, just real quick. Joe from DNA Partners, and we're a seed investment firm in USA and China. Software industry. Okay, third time. Joe from DNA Partners, seed investment firm, USA and China. Software specific, we like digital media and software. But we're here today, my question relates to, we're here today for the convergence of fashion and VR. And I come back from the mobile industry, which was mentioned a couple times today. So Prada and Karl Lager, and those were all discussions going on in the mobile industry in 2007, 2008. So Prada had an LG phone. Is there any convergence that you can talk about with fashion and VR that's going on? Maybe Luxottica or something that's going on with the standard eyeglass companies?
So with video, so there's two portions of fashion, which is the consumption of fashion, which says, I'm at the fashion show I could never be at before because somebody's doing 360 video. I'm there, and I have the best seat, right there. But I won't cross my legs. In the front. Sorry if you haven't watched it, or I've got the meme on that one. But the other thing is, when you get into generated, you get into the idea of creatable fashion, creatable avatars, and saying, oh, I want this and this and this and this, and here's my scan of my body, which is in there, and I can see what it looks like. So there's some interesting things there.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised. Are you making the association between LG and the, having a sponsored phone? I remember, I think, I had like a Nokia, Dolce & Gabbana sponsored flip phone, Motorola flip phone. And every time you turned it on, it went, Dolce & Gabbana. Anyway, I was like the coolest person at my school, no big deal. I'm actually so surprised we haven't seen more collaborations between designers and headset makers. I mean, down to the Google Cardboard, there are a couple of great companies who are doing this kind of like print on demand. You put your company's logo and you can order like a bunch with, whatever designer or, whatever company you're promoting on the front. Oh, hello? I think, given I think the Google Cardboard is like the prototypical canvas for people to project, whatever they want onto it. And I'm really hoping that we're going to see a couple of interesting startups. Again, there'll be like short-term things where you can design your own pattern to put on the cardboard. I mean, it's literally cardboard. I mean, people can figure out nice ways of designing it. And what's so good about cardboard is that it's kind of an ad in a bag. You can send out hundreds of thousands of these things for not much money, and who's not going to at least try it once and have an experience? The New York Times tried it out, the 1 million it sent to its readers. I think that any company could really benefit from doing that. Create a simple experience, doesn't have to be anything fancy, it's something built on Unity or just a simple 360 video, and send it out with some custom designed Google Cardboards. And yeah, I think Samsung Oculus could do with having a bit of design input. Maybe we'll see a Dolce & Gabbana sponsored Oculus. Maybe not yet, but soon.
Very cool, thank you. So, I hate trying on clothes. So I can only imagine how amazing this is going to become for myself. If I don't have to go into stores and try on, 5, 6 pairs of jeans or t-shirts and so on and so forth, as you were saying, an avatar, I can just pop it on and see if I look good or not. That for me is exactly how I would use fashion in VR. I mean, just out of pure laziness. But I mean, hey, it's going to save me time.
So I think when one of the big brands gets behind a VR headset, I think it'll be a couple of years, because that typically happens when you need a little bit of differentiation in the product. So you can think of like the Red iPod, the YouTube iPod, like how long did it take for the YouTube iPod to come out after the original iPod came out? Yeah, he said not long enough. But I think you'll definitely see some skins come out, like some kind of cases, like iPhone cases came out. You'll see some kind of like stickers that people can put on the side of their headsets to make them look cooler. And if that catches enough traction and becomes a thing, because who knows when something really becomes a thing, then, then maybe after that, if there's enough demand for customized ones.
I think fashion is trying to recover from Google Glass.
I'm just going to add really, really quickly. Imagine walking down the runway as your favorite model. That'd be fun. Being under paparazzi flashes could be cool, or paparazzi, I guess, the photographer flashes. That'd be fun.
If someone can get Rico Theta to go down Fashion Week runway, call me. That'd be cool.
Question?
Oh, sorry. If you play Grand Theft Auto 5, this video game, but you can actually do that kind of shopping that you guys were talking about right now, and you can see what it looks like, but it's custom tailored to that model. So actually, it would be really, really cool if in the future we could know our exact dimensions, exact size we are, and make clothes that are the exact size they are, and then see how they would look on our body, like you said. It's like a really good idea, but I mean, the problem is making sure it actually does fit, right?
Yeah, so great question. Can we figure out what actually fits you from this VR experience when we know what you like? So I actually know a company, I don't know if any company is currently doing this for avatars in the VR space, but I know a company where if you give them 5 dimensions, or 5 things like height, weight, age, shoe size, and like one other like normal thing, they can figure out with a 98% accuracy what clothes you fit. It's a SaaS product they sell to fashion companies right now. And then you combine that with a photo of your face, which other companies can use that to make your avatar. You can have like a very, very, very realistic avatar within less than a minute.
Yeah, point scan data right now is getting, and Intel RealSense is another example of hardware. Not only as I start scanning, I know what color that pixel is, I also know how far I am from that. And so instead of building this room in CGI, I'm scanning this room.
Like a Connect.
Okay, and so like a Connect, something like that. And so with that kind of a technology, that you could go and do that and do your little dance in front of it, it knows what you built like. This week, because I know I change from week to week, so it changes.
But you have to get like very close off, I think, to get it right, to get some of those dimensions right. So I don't know if that will hit ubiquity anytime soon, especially for consumers, but like if this company I know actually, I mean, apparently it works at that accuracy rate, I mean, you will see that really take off.
I think people love you naked in front of cameras in front of their house.
What we do in our spare time then.
Until it gets hacked.
I have a question. In regards to the evolution of the hardware, specifically the contact lens, will we be able to wear the contact lens throughout the day, turn it on and off, be in virtual reality, not in virtual reality? And also, how does the audio play into that factor? How will we translate the audio into like the contact lens? And if there is an audio to it now, I didn't understand that.
Okay, I mean, I'm projecting, so if anybody does do something with this and there's a PC in the room and wants to remember that we were talking about it, yeah, that's cool. But I imagine all of it being wirelessly connected, so you're not going to have your contact doing audio, you may have some Bluetooth buds in at about the same time. All that data is coming and being projected wirelessly onto it. My guess is in 10 years, who knows, you could have nano computers in the contacts themselves. Don't even know how small we're going to get when it comes to computing power. But can it turn it on and off? It's the same thing. I mean, these things will turn within 2 minutes, or not even that. Boom, they're black. And so whether you're turning things on and off on your contacts, it may be as fast. So the idea of the technology getting real small, I'm hoping that if I'm projecting that far out, that yeah, it's going to be that easy.
And there'll be like a chip you put in your ear, right? Just like if you watch any futurist movie, like one of these like Minority Report things, they're always like thing in the eyeball, thing in the ear. Maybe there's a chip in the head that connects it all around the CPU and some crazy shit. So I mean, the technology will come and we'll get there, and it'll be really weird for us now, you know. But when it becomes normal, it'll be normal.
So I was just curious because you guys mentioned the whole like virtual, like putting clothes on. Like we all know that idea is not new. It started with Clueless. And then like also the Prada store back in like the late 90s had this idea of like a virtual, like instead of having you have 3 mirrors, that you have like a camera behind them so you can see it on the mirror. And then Burberry, they had this whole idea of kind of making their store like a kind of like a fashion like playground where you can scan things and you can virtually see how all things are made. But none of those things really took off. And I'm wondering, why do you think there's that resistance between fashion and virtual reality?
By the way, tomorrow is a digital showroom or digital storefront and showroom tomorrow. So we have Banana Republic, PayPal, Buster Labs. Okay, sorry.
I think when it comes to these big things in tech, there's a big temptation just to do things because like it's possible, and there's that kind of supply side thing. People are doing it because they think it'll be awesome, it'll help them differentiate. But I think when fashion brands do successfully work with technology, it's because they're going to where the consumer is, and they're starting off with, let's say my target market is an 18-year-old on the phone the entire time. How do I get to her? And maybe that's through, it could be through creating a really compelling 360 video experience, or maybe even a game. We saw how successful the Kardashians, mobile games have been. So I think that the key to fashion working more successfully with technology is to kind of take a user-centered design approach to meet the user where they are, and I think a lot of VR tech will make its way into the fashion world. But I think that the mistake that shouldn't be made is to start from, hey, this is cool, let's push it out, and to
at the same time, it's always been kind of cool. Like from my fashion school, everyone fantasizes about that Clueless app where you
that's
just like
true.
slide it. So like that's like there's still that resistance of actually creating that, but there's like a huge market for it. So I'm just
It's the pipeline, actually, I think a lot of it, because I remember having this discussion with a group 15 years ago to do something similar. The content, to be able to create something that's going to drape properly, it's not just painting something on an avatar, it's the cloth, it's the physics, it's that it actually is going to behave as if when you bought it, it behaves that way on your body. The amount of time it takes to create that, at least years ago when it first came out, it took longer to get the content created than the fashion would be in style. And so that's why it never really took. And it may be getting better, but that was the issue years ago.
Okay, thank you. Gentleman up here, and then thank you. By the way, if you go to Rebecca Bancroft, she has that screen that you were referring to, and Target showroom has too. Yeah, go ahead.
At the moment, the cameras are all about taking a 3D image and you're inside the image, so you're looking around. But when, if I want to sell something on eBay, I want to take a picture of my shoes and I want someone to be able to spin them around and look at them. So is the technology already there to take a picture in multiple angles and then to be able to like spin it? So I don't want to look around the shoe. I want to manipulate them inside of the virtual reality.
I think that technology's actually been there. You just need, like, if you're going to place an object, you just put 4 cameras around it, right? And then you can get the full aspect ratio of it.
And is there something I can use to do that now? I can go to a website.
So that's one sphere, right? So that's one sphere, and you can look within that. If you had 4 cameras, you had 4, and you could bounce between this view, or the view in that sphere, or the view in that sphere. I haven't seen yet, other than in the Super Bowl, where what they did is they had 35 cameras all pointing in 2 foci in the middle of the stadium. And what they did was the reverse. So when they pulled the camera around, what they were really doing was they were on the sphere looking back down. So it was the reverse of that.
So is there an app or a website I can go to now with 4 pictures and make this into a...
There are actually a lot, so I think we're kind of describing it 3D image scanning, and actually pre-VR, there's I can't remember the names. If you look up 3D shopping online, there are a couple of startups who are doing it for shoes. In particular, because shoes are classic, I don't know why shoes, but you really want to understand their shape. People are really picky about the edges, the bottoms, and if you search 3D shopping, and one I think really exciting opportunity is a lot of people have been working on 3D image scanning for years without necessarily a place to put them, and I think there's a pretty obvious translation of those assets into VR. That'll be cool.
That's the point cloud. That's the thing I was saying before about distance pixel. Then you could walk.
Pre-VR, there are quite a few. Zappos is one of them. I mean, there are various websites pre-VR that you can view shoes in 360 absolutely now. You're talking about in VR. All right, do we have another question?
Okay, two more.
I believe this
Go ahead.
woman had a question.
Yes, your name?
Susan.
Susan has a question.
So a lot of fashion bloggers and bloggers, they communicate with their audience via like social media, Snapchat, Instagram, all that stuff. Has any VR company dived into like the areas of advertising or marketing VR for people specifically in that area?
Not really. They're still stuck in Instagram.
Right. Yes. Yeah. But is that like a possibility maybe in the future, or something that people have to do?
I think it's kind of already happening. So we've got a lot of messages from people who are doing this on their own with these cameras and saying, look, I've been paid to do this before, how can we work together? So I think that a lot of the models will translate well from kind of YouTube era and Instagram onto 360 video. But I think, as I was saying, I think a lot more of it will be native and branded content rather than pre-roll ads. Potentially, that's kind of a guess, but right now it looks promising.
And part of me wonders, like, I feel like Facebook is so good at developing product and they've been working at VR so much longer than everyone else, or like really diving into it. No one knows what they're really doing, right? So I feel like anything that's already on their platform, they're going to really do their best to hold on to. I don't know if they'll get into finding a way for bloggers to monetize, because they still don't let Instagrammers monetize, right? But every space is open up again. It's a new industry.
Yeah, so Mark Zuckerberg yesterday came out and said that he believes that VR is going to be the most social platform, right? And as you're saying, that the repercussions of that is incredible. I mean, whenever Facebook coming out and saying that there's another medium, or one that he owns as well, that's going to be the most social medium, I mean, that's incredible. And there's a really cool company called Altspace VR. And it's not exactly what you're talking about, but it allows you to just be in a room with everybody else wearing a headset and feel like you're in a room with all these other people, kind of like what we are doing right now. You can literally just kind of have like holograms of stuff within this room. So if you're like a merchant, or you could like post something and be like, hey, come up, check out my like makeup like studio or whatever it would be. So Altspace VR is kind of dabbling with that right now, and yeah, they're doing some incredible things. So it's kind of there, but I don't think it's there in the way that you're thinking of it yet. So go build it.
Isn't the porn industry making a killing?
The porn industry is, yes.
I wouldn't know.
My question is mainly related to the funding. I know that you mentioned that it's like a ton of money that VCs are pouring into the industry. But is there something that you can tell more, like what stage is a good target? Like, is it you have to have the prototype first and then come to VCs, or is there a specific industry that you have to start right now? Because you could be in VR in any space. Gaming is one thing, fashion is one thing, travel is one thing, but is there like a specific thing that you thought?
Yeah, so I'm trying to recall like a chart I saw. So the majority of the money right now is going into the things that will happen first in VR, the industries that will take off first. So things in entertainment are really like a majority of the funding goes to like entertainment, like because of movies and experiences and hardware providers and live events and those type of spaces. And then there are niche industries after that, like architecture and education and social that'll have like little chunks. But really the money's there. You can't just have an idea, just like with any startup. You can't be like, I have this idea and I can do this. I mean, if you were a big dude, if you're like Elon Musk and you have an idea, people are going to give you money. But yeah, but if you're still kind of making a name for yourself and people know, you have to come up with some kind of version of a product or a good team and a good set of advisors and have something. But the money is lining up to start investing here. So if you get that far.
Okay, one last question.
I have a question here, sorry, I've been raising my hands for last
Sorry?
minutes and I tried to ask a question.
Okay, sorry, I'm wearing my glasses. I didn't see you.
I'm here. Can I ask, or is it?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
What's your name?
Edvana Vilani. I've been trying to draw a conclusion from the questions that we've asked, especially the safe gentleman joke. When the term of fashion comes into VR, are you speaking hardware or the content software? Because it's been intermixed, you guys are all talking about the fashion world and content, and then the hardware reality of it, of actually having hardware within the designers. So can someone shed a light on this, please?
So I think I'm definitely right that we were all talking at kind of cross purposes. I see. So would it be helpful to? I think none of us have particular insights into the kind of hardware and fashion intersection, unless I'm wrong there. I think more that we probably the valuable thing we say are probably most likely to come in the kind of software, entertainment and video space. I think that everyone's looking to the fashion industry, and I think what's so interesting about this meeting is that a lot of people doing VR startups are banking on the fashion industry, wanting to invest, wanting to create advertisements, wanting to create experiences. A lot of people say that, how are we going to fund this? We're going to fund it with fashion. We're going to fund it with advertising. And it sounds like it's not necessarily a debate that's happening on both sides. I think it's something people always want to happen. It's not very helpful, but I think most people in the VR space, most people are anticipating that fashion is going to pay for all the content that they're making, which might not be true. And I think that a debate is going to, real conversations going to start be happening to see, are fashion retailers actually going to get any return on their investment by experimenting with this new technology? When's it going to happen? How soon? So from the advertising perspective, I think that's
on the hardware end, I don't think it's going to happen. Luxury brands are going to make money by co-branding with the existing technology. Yes.
I think a big challenge is to bring women into the space
one
as well.
last question on that corner, please. Go ahead, Simon. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, guys. I was curious about sort of what you think the future is of hardware and hardware objects and how sort of using them while you're in a virtual space, using them physically sort of how those objects can sort of influence the virtual space, sort of like the evolution of the controller for this new platform.
So we do a lot of simulation right now between hardware and software for, as an example, somebody designing a cockpit for a plane. So UI type work. So you have just someone sitting in a chair, plywood in front of them, but with the headset on, that is a one-to-one distance. So when you're going pop, 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 you're seeing all those buttons, and they're watching exactly where you're going and trying, and they say, oh, you know what, that's not reachable, or they spend more time here than there. So that's interesting. There are gloves. So we talk about different things like wands and controllers. There are controllers that will know where your digits are, or there's Magic Leap that has your hands, or which you always bring with you, supposedly. But there are haptic ones, which I can touch not just a physical device, I mean a physical thing, but a virtual device. And we've got some clients that are basically going and having people look in with their headsets on at virtual things and touching virtual objects, feeling like they're doing it, and they're measuring their brain waves to correlate what's happening in their brain at the same time. So there are devices that let you do that. Is there an example of something that you can see, that interaction between hardware and touch that you were thinking of?
Well, since I was thinking, since this is sort of a fashion event, how those objects can translate in terms of like what do we do with these sort of wearable devices, and are we going to have some shoe clip-ons that tell us we're walking for
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It would be, one of the things that I haven't, you know, we're talking fashion, there's no way for me to be able to look at a particular jacket. I'm Italian, I touch everything, right? It's like, you know, and there's that, you know, is that texture, what I would think that I bought it. There's no way for me to get that yet in virtual reality.
What was it before haptic? So before.
Oh, before.
Leap motion.
Oh, yeah, so leap motion is one where it's like a kinetic, where it's seeing it, there's a camera on the front of the HMD looking out, and it sees your hand. And so what it's doing is it's recognizing what you're doing, and you see not your real hand, but the manifestation of your hand and grasping things. It's one of those hands. It's kind of neat. There are ways, okay, so the question is, can I see the rest of my body? Depending on how many different sensors you have. Now, the Magic Leap, yeah, you can see it because it's actually a camera doing it this way. If I'm doing an avatar and I'm walking around with sensors looking at where I am in space, it knows where the headset is, it knows where the wand is. I can put markers at different parts of my elbow and my, you know, my shoulder. It grabs and knows where I am, and it puts that avatar doing things that I would normally do if I was moving in that fashion. So there's ways people do simulations. We have military folks that are doing like helicopter simulations where they're running into a room, going through a hatch to bring save people up. That's all virtual.
And they also have
And they have a haptic, and what haptic is just you fooling your body in the sense that there's something real that it's touching.
Yeah, so the haptic feedback devices basically put push against, like you have a glove on, it will push against you. If you think you're holding an apple, it could be like light touch against it so you can feel it. And likewise for gloves, also have whole body haptic suits. So you can like feel whole experiences like wind blowing you and like all this cool shit. Now, all that stuff has to be functional before it becomes like sexy, right? So I don't think fashion's gonna really be that big of a thing for haptics because it's still kind of making its way into being functional. Yeah, Dolce & Gabbana like suits are not going to be like a big thing anytime soon. For the most part, I don't think fashion gets into the hardware aspect in the early stages for the next couple of years. Fashion is going to be much bigger as far as like how you can do fashion inside the virtual world, and how, for you guys, if you're working in fashion and tech and want to get in that space, like there's almost no one in that space to where it's really hard to get into the fashion world right now. It's very easy to become a player in that space. You get to get ahead of the curve, which is kind of cool. Okay, last question.
Well, actually, in Batnet's class, there's a Walking Adventures, there's this company called OBE, Body Experience. And so Linda, she's like 30 under 30 and is like a fashion designer. And the jacket is wearable and it's super fashionable, but it's a controller in VR. So not only does it give you real-time biometric data, but also like you have controllers on your palms that you can use, and your actions are reflected in the game. So once your heartbeat starts rising, that's reflected in the game. So it's a really cool sort of way, and their effort to merge fashion with tech and VR.
Yeah, I'll just say that if fashion could get in this space like yesterday and help make it not only in terms of hardware like aesthetically beautiful, but in terms of the content itself and establish itself as a player, that would be really, really cool. And I think it would help this industry be taken a little bit more seriously as well, because it is important that fashion make the entire leap into VR and not just have one foot in, one foot out, as we're seeing right now. So that would be great. So this is a call to action to all of you here that are in fashion and tech to really make that leap and make that plunge, because as you said, it really is a good time.
Thank you so much for all of your wonderful questions. Can I get one more round of applause for these four, please? Thank you for joining us. It's been a successful evening. We loved that you joined us here. Owen, do you have anything else to contribute?
Photo op.
Photo opportunities, feel free to come on over, take some photos of the group.
And stay here, we have a lot of Samsung gears that need to be tested.